Okay, welcome back. I hope everyone had a wonderful lunch and good conversation. So let's just take a moment to breathe into our own centers. Be present here now. And for our afternoon prayer, I ask that you would take this little booklet we have. We're going to pray Psalm 17 together. There's a right and a left side. So we will have these five tables that loop around this way. And these four going this way. Okay, will be the left side. So this will be the right, and this will be the left. My left. Okay. And so may the right begin.
Thank you. I think the words from David, the psalmist, are very fitting for this moment. And I think Mother Clara is very happy to see all of us here, her sisters and her brother. I'm sure. After the first encounter this morning, I was asked by Sister Sylvia to say something more about the dark clouds which we have experienced in Germany, especially from the side of the priests. And I can tell you, a number of our sisters, before they entered our congregation, they were warned. You want to go to Salzkotten? There was something wrong with the foundress. How can you go there? So, but many of them they went in spite of that, yeah? And something special, when I was working on the book, so half a year before we got it finished, then the professor who accompanied my work, he said, we have the custom in the Diocese of Paderborn that the priests who are celebrating a jubilee, they get a book from one of the auxiliary bishops which has to do somehow with the history of Paderborn. So, and he told this auxiliary bishop half a year in advance, for next year I have something for you. So that means the jubilarians of Paderborn this year, they received the book, The Sun Remains Above, yeah? Then one extra word in regard to Sister Germana. We will encounter her a couple of times during our time together. what was read this morning, these are really her records, yeah? She was asked to write everything down, and later on when Schaeffer wanted to write history, so this was practically the first part, but then he engaged her to write everything down she knew and she experienced. And then he told her, do this thinking of one day there will be the day of last judgment, yeah? So that you know you have written down everything in a good, best way, yeah? So there's a whole book. So she got order to write it down, yeah? It was not so easy for her. And later on you will understand when I'm saying this, yeah? Yeah. So, and everything I wrote down, it's not in no way an interpretation. I used material as I found it. So we reviewed this morning a little bit what happens since her humiliating departure in 1880. That after more than 30 years her picture could be displayed once again in the Mother House. That writing a history was started in order to give the community a historical background. And that in 1957 the biography appeared entitled The Burning Seal. We sense something of the attitude of Mother Clara, because after all her experiences and all her sorrows, she forgave everyone who wronged her and prayed for them. So I keep this always in mind when I am talking about these things, when I'm talking about people who were involved in the whole history. I always keep in mind that Mother Clara has forgiven everybody. That is important. She also hoped that there would be a new bishop in Paderborn as the successor of Bishop Konrad Martin. And we saw that questions have remained unanswered in the hearts of the sisters and others. Let us now look at the journey of Mother Clara, how she faithfully followed the footsteps of Jesus, how divine providence helped the congregation find answers to unanswered questions, and how we might see Mother Clara in a different light. So she worked her way in fidelity. And if we recall what's written in the book of Leviticus, the Lord tells us, be holy, for I, your God, I am holy. And we have then the motto of Mother Clara, I want to become holy, no matter what the cost. And then, in her Lenten letter, 1878, she tells us, there will be little for us to do for our sanctification if our will is unified with the will of God. And she had the unconditional confidence in the divine providence. Mother Clara was faithful to the bishop. To break the imposed silence that meant for her betrayal. She was faithful to her vocation to live for the church, in the church, to pray with the church, to suffer and to die. And she was faithful to herself, never wavering for her goal. She had confidential trust in the divine providence. If we just prayed the Psalm 17, but if we look into Psalm 145, it also reflects a little bit what Mother Clara experienced. The Lord is near to all who call upon him. The Lord is righteous in all his ways, merciful in all his works. The Lord is near to all who call upon him, to all who call upon him in truth. He fulfills the desire of those who fear him. He hears their cry and saves them. The Lord watches over all who love him, but all wicked he destroys. My mouth will speak the praises of the Lord. All flesh will bless his holy name forever and forever. This morning already we recalled her kind of guiding word. Our ways are mysteries of the divine providence, and the sun remains above, will again bring light into the darkness. In the meantime, we have enlightened all the candles here, because Mother Clara has again appeared here. In May 1970, I think Sister Audrey might also recall that, the original of the founding constitutions was found at the general age of the Salvatorian Fathers. We cannot imagine which joy came up in the heart of Mother Aristide and all sisters around who experienced this directly. And Mother Aristide couldn't believe that the fathers were gracious enough and kind enough to hand over this original book. Some years later, they wouldn't have done it anymore. That is for sure. And I tell you, I am going every year to a meeting of the archivists in Germany. And last year I was approached by 2 Salvatorian fathers. They told me, this would not have happened anymore. Yeah? But I told them, and I am not the one who will give the book back to you. So, yeah. So the original we can find in the archives of our generalate in Rome. But I must say, it is not that the congregation got lost of the spirit. Yeah? We have in Salzkotten a handwritten copy of it, and I have studied all the constitutions which followed, so they are all based on this original document. So, and the big question always, Franciscan rule, Augustan rule. So in this book we find the rule of St. Francis, no doubt about that. Yeah. So, and the founding constitutions, they were translated into all the languages just in time to work with them during the writing of the constitutions after Vatican II. And now I am asking to bring one copy of the founding constitutions here to our table.
Sister, you have my copy.
Oh yes. Oh, thank you, Toby.
You're welcome.
That is really a source of our spirituality. And then, 7 years later, just at the moment when we had a commission work at the Generalate, I think Sister Mary Lou, you were in Rome at the time, yeah? So there came a telephone call from the archives of the College of the Camposanto. They had found something. Mother Aristide, since the Generalate moved to Rome, she had asked it at the Camposanto a couple of times, don't you have anything from our founders? And she always got the word, there is nothing. Or the other answer was, the archives are not in order. nobody took care of it. So obviously, at this moment, somebody took care of the archives. and the whole stack was found. And of course, we were not able to get the papers, and also not the original of the power of the bishop, but we were allowed to take once the whole stack and to go to the Gregoriana. At that time we did not have a good photocopy machine, and we got good copies made at the Grec in Rome, so that we would have something to work with. So, and in these documents we found also the secret power given by the bishop. This is another step to her rehabilitation. And what you have here, that is a view into this complex of the Camposanto. Here is the entrance. Camposanto is a German cemetery. So, and there, that is a college for priests. And so in this college, there are special archives. And Mother Clara, when she came to Rome, she contacted the Rector de Val of this college, and she must have entered these doors here a couple of times. So now I am asking to bring the secret power which was given by the bishop, to bring it here to the front. Try to imagine this power was given in the prison 1875, and we found it back 1977, over 100 years. This is really another step to her rehabilitation. Here we have this also on the screen. We are familiar with the text, and you find this text also in the book, Light into the Darkness. I'm only reading the beginning. So, under the current circumstances, and for as long as I am forcibly prevented from serving in the leadership of the diocese, the Venerable Superior General of the Congregation, the Franciscan Sisters in Salzburg, is authorized, etc., etc., after consultation with the Superior, if this is possible. But if this is possible, that was really something very difficult, because the Superior, we will hear this at another time, very often for half a year he did not come. And on the other side, in order to give her this permission, he wanted really to protect the priests, because the bishop was in prison, and he knew that he would never get back to Paderborn, and he knew also, as soon as the priest would do anything which would look like something what the bishop would do, he would also have ended in prison. Yeah? So she was able to choose confessors, to receive new novices, and to accept sisters for their vows. So I am making a step. Klein, after the death of Mother Clara, there was contact between Superior Klein and Rector de Val in Rome, because after the death of Mother Clara, all her documents got into his hands. So, and there was contact between the two to handle everything which had to be handled. And de Waal asked Klein at a certain moment what he should do with the documents. And the answer was, you can keep them or you can destroy them, it's up to you. So, and I think the greatest gift of Rector de Waal to us is that he kept the documents. Yeah. Without, he would be still in the darkness. And after finding the documents there, we were allowed to put a plaque at the wall of the church. And this was blessed during General Chapter 1979. I think a number of us were present. Also Sister Claire, and I don't know who else was present. So, and Dr. Gatz, whom we are seeing here on this picture, he was responsible for the Campus Santo, for the college, and also for the archives. And he made a wonderful speech. He said, here where the Campus Santo is, they used the Circo Nero to be, where many Christians died in the first centuries. And he said, and Mother Clara has experienced a martyrdom in a profound, deep way. And then if you look, where can we find this plaque? Next to the first station of the cross. So there is some, you can see some connection, yeah? Jesus was condemned, and Mother Clara practically was also condemned. Yes. And these documents and the research in other archives enabled then Sister Aristide to write the book, Light into the Darkness, which came out just at the moment of the 100th death anniversary of Mother Clara. And I am asking now to bring the book Light into the Darkness. See, there have been important steps toward the final rehabilitation of Mother Clara. And I remember there was a great excitement in the congregation in receiving this book. I think that has done a lot of good to all of us. And it has been read for many, many people from the outside. But later on I will give some proofs of that. And after the book came out, there was then the great desire to look into the history of the whole congregation. So, and then a commission was formed, and then Sister Audrey wrote the beautiful history. So we are very grateful to her, what she did at that time. Yeah, I think we need to applaud. So she really made a wonderful work, and nobody can really imagine what it is. Yeah, she went from one province to the other to collect information, etc., etc. Yeah, and then put everything into the context of history in general. So now. During General Chapter 1991, some of us might recall this, Father Donnell, a Capuchin, made some comments in regard to the founding constitutions and to the book mentioned before. I had the opportunity of reading your constitutions of 1860 of your foundress, Mother Clara, and also that lovely book you had published, Light into the Darkness, which is an ambiguous title. It is light into where there was darkness, and is very revealing. I think you are a very privileged group. From reading of her constitutions of 1860, one can see, because she was not only courageous, the foundress, but also had a tremendous faith in Jesus Christ. I think to be a member of this congregation must give you tremendous inspiration, and to look at your courageous foundress. She never became embittered. I think she is surely directing each one of you at the congregation and the congregation at this moment, never to become embittered, even when things may go beyond hard, may be going hard. I read in the constitutions, the Mother Clara shows tremendous affection for St. Francis of Assisi. I think it is wonderful that she underlines this in the founding constitutions, also that she concentrates on the Eucharist. There is nothing more Franciscan than to concentrate on the Eucharist and on adoration. I think you have a foundress who is exceptional, who could write such constitutions. The spirit is utterly Franciscan, and I think very, very beautiful. And when I look into the historical moments when she wrote this, I really don't know when she did this. I really don't know. And to write such constitutions with such a profound spirituality, that is exceptional. And we received it with gratitude just before we were rewriting our constitutions. Mother Aristide writes at the end of the book, Guide into the Darkness, the controversy is not a conflict between the official church and the congregation, although representatives of the official church and of the congregation took opposing stands on important issues. In the last analysis, the opposition lay merely between the foundress and its ecclesiastical superior. Both of them justified their actions by reference to powers given them by the church. And she concludes, to clarify some legal aspects, further studies of canon law regulations from the time of the Kulturkampf are necessary. Thus, no far evidence has been found that could have justified Superior Klein to attack the honor of our Mother Clara. I am sharing now with you a little bit what people from the outside had to say when they read the book. When Mother Clara was in Rome, she had contact with the Trinitarian Fathers. She lived for about 10 months in the Via del Quirinale, and across from the street there was the church San Carlino, and she had contact with Father Bernardino. He was the superior of that time. And there exists also a letter, and some time ago I took the letter and wrote it to the Trinitarians, asking if they could find something in their archives. But I have asked it a couple of times, and I think others after me have also asked it. We couldn't find anything, but I think we developed a certain relationship with the Trinitarians of today, and that it was wonderful. I am telling you now, or repeating some words, which Father Pedro, who is responsible now for this convent at San Carlino, what he had to say. He said, "You know very well the words of Mother Clara. Our ways are mystery of the providence of God, which lead us according to his will, even though we do not understand. And then he said, "Blessed are you, Mother Clara, because you believed against all hope. Blessed are you, Mother Clara, because you understood that for the sake of the kingdom of heaven and for the sake of your daughters, you lived in utter poverty and surrendered everything. Blessed are you, because the Lord found you before dawn and sunrise appeared, awake and ready." In this house, Via Sistina 149, Mother Clara died on October 5th, 1882, at 3 o'clock in the morning with the words, "Come, St. Francis, I am ready." I'm coming later on back to that. And during a visit at the Camposanto, Father Martin Steiner, a Franciscan, he made some comments. He said, "When I am walking here, seeing all the big monuments on the cemetery, then I am asking myself, where are the poor?" So, and then he said, "Mother Clara lived her poverty to a greater degree than even St. Francis himself did. 3 churches have been built over his grave. Mother Clara does not even have her own grave." And Archbishop Agostino Gardin, a conventual, he said on the occasion on the 112th death anniversary of Mother Clara, "The story of this courageous and brave woman lets us ask the question, where did this disciple of Jesus and St. Francis find the strength to go on despite all the difficult trials and constant resistances? When the conviction of being loved by Christ penetrates deeply into a person's heart, it creates a power and an inner strength that does not come from human resources." He continued, "She went her way in absolute sincerity and at the same time with a deep inner freedom. She followed her conscience and the truth to the acceptance of the rejection and the experience of persecution by some. But she did not want to break the ties of love with the Church and with her sisters. She just practiced in a difficult but exemplary way the perfect obedience that Francis saw as the extreme practice of mutual love, the mutual love of which Jesus spoke in John's Gospel. Let us remember with admiration and inward movement this woman who has given us a very difficult but generous example to follow the Lord." This morning I mentioned Prelat Schäfers. He even came, as I said this morning, he came even to the United States to collect information, and I'm sure at that time he met with sisters who knew Mother Clara also personally. He said, "If there would have been an orderly ecclesiastical administration with a bishop at the head in Paderborn, then certainly the situation would have taken a different course in Salzgitter. So we can rightly claim that Mother Clara became a victim of the Kulturkampf." And he says, "Perpetual adoration at the Mother House in Salzgitter and in Olpe is the heritage of Mother Clara Pfaender." So, and he puts this also in different ways. So the veneration for the Eucharistic Lord, this is very precious, as well as her personality. And he continues to write, Mother Clara had a strong impact on the sisters, novices, postulants, orphans, and even among the people of the world. Her subordinates loved deeply their venerable mother. Even today, the eyes of the elderly sisters shine when they speak of Mother Clara. That is really a testimony, yeah? And here, a woman in Germany, she has been doing some research on religious, especially on Franciscan sisters in the 19th century. And she dares to say, the woman Anna Theresia Pfaender did not fit at all with the ideas of the ecclesiastical hierarchy, which was characterized by a rather rigid view. I think this is true, yeah? But I found this in a book, so that means it has gone around the country, yeah? So here we are going to have a little music, and then we continue with the second part of the afternoon. She must increase, I must decrease. She said, as we know, I must perish, but the work will endure. Mother Clara experienced this in a profound way from the Lord. What she advised her sisters to carry out, what she heroically fulfilled herself, and to come that far to endure being forgotten. From an early age, the Lord must have called her to a deep inner attitude of surrender, and not only of her own will, her own desires, and her own possessions. No, the Lord demanded more of her, the renunciation of her honor as well. At the height of all the accusation, the slander, even the protests against her, she wrote to the nuncio in Munich in April 1880, "It is not my honor I am searching for." This she had sacrificed 28 years ago in her solemn act of profession. The Lord helped her to endure the persecutions and slander of his sake, even to rejoice in it. The Lord helped her then, also during her time in Rome, to pray under the cross for her persecutors, to forgive them wholeheartedly for all suffering they inflicted upon her. But she could not keep silent when the honor of the congregation was at stake, especially when it came to the greater glory of God and works of mercy. Then she could not keep silent. Being forgotten, even dying. We have here the house door of Via Sistina, 149, and we have the entrance to the cemetery. Forgotten, but in deep union with the Father of the Order. Dying, she spoke the words, "Come, St. Francis, I am ready." Let us take a closer look at Mother Clara's words, uttered on her deathbed. We can see a connection to her life project, to her vocation. She founded a community with the name Sisters of St. Francis, Daughters of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. Because of this, she chose the rule of the Third Order Regular of St. Francis as a basis for their life. The founding constitutions, Article 2, on the name of the sisters reads, "They call themselves Sisters of St. Francis because they have happily begun their holy work under the patronage of St. Francis. They wish continually to advance under his protection and thus always honor him as their chosen patron before the throne of God, earnestly striving to imitate his excellent example of virtue, particularly his gospel poverty." In the last article of the founding constitutions we read, "The way of the Sisters of St. Francis, Daughters of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary, is their rule and regulation, by means of which they shall advance from virtue to virtue until the day they meet the heavenly bridegroom in Zion." To begin and to continue the work under the protection of St. Francis, to follow his example, to take his rule as a standard, calling him with a ready heart at her hour of death on October 5th, 1882, just a few hours after the feast of St. Francis. Does this have a meaning? What can we read, deduct from it? Mother Clara died alone, accompanied only by Sister Evangelista and a Jesuit priest. But was she really alone? The sisters in her homeland and elsewhere did not know anything about at this important hour. Nor did Mother Clara know what was going on at the same time in the whole Third Order of St. Francis and in Salzkotten. On the occasion of the 700th anniversary of the birth of St. Francis, on September 17, 1882, the Pope Leon XIII, who was also a Third Order member, issued the encyclical Auspicato Concessum with the subtitle About St. Francis of Assisi. The encyclical includes the invitation to celebrate this centenary festively, especially in the Third Order of St. Francis. The congregations were invited to hold a Triduum from October 4th to October 6th and end with the solemn Te Deum before the Blessed Sacrament and conclude with the sacramental blessing. What an attention of the Divine Providence that this Triduum was also held at the Mother House in Salzkotten from October 4th to 6th, while Mother Clara returned her soul to her Creator in the early morning hours of October 5th. In order to discover this, more than 130 years were needed. And I must say, I told you this morning that in the archives of Paderborn, the documents are missing from 1875 to 1882. And it begins again with this letter of the General Vicar inviting Mother Ignatia to celebrate the Triduum. Yeah? Another sign from heaven. Mother Clara was buried on October 7th, the Feast of the Rosary. She had chosen the Mother of God to be her mother when she just was a child. You know, she lost her mother and the second mother, and then she had a third mother. Near the Church of St. Lawrence, a saint who took great care of the poor during his time in Rome and who died as a martyr, the remains of Mother Clara are waiting her resurrection. And the priest, Monsignor Pfaffhausen, I think some of you got to know him, he once said, the sisters of Salzkotten have their feet very deep in the ground. Yeah, do you understand what that means? He was not so keen of Mother Clara, but once there were two sisters, Franciscan sisters from Germany, from another congregation. They were at our house, and I had to bring them to the airport. At the same time, he was sitting next to me. I wanted to go to Germany. The sister said, once we had a general chapter, and one boat was missing, otherwise he would have gone also to Rome. And then Dr. Pfaffhausen said, but the sisters from Salzkotten, there's the feet in Rome, deep, deep in the ground. And Sister Gregoria wrote many years later, resting in Rome on foreign soul and buried by Caritas, the great sufferer and foundress of a great congregation, Mother Clara Pfaender, lies unrecognized and forgotten by many of her children. Rest gently, good Mother. Written by an eyewitness, I found the words, Sister Gregoria writes, O pilgrim, if you come from Paderborn to Salzkotten along a wide road and see a large monastery with a beautiful church, remain reflective and ask yourself, who founded all of this? You know that. It is the great sufferer, Mother Clara Pfaender, who rests in Rome, buried by Caritas on foreign soul. She continues, Mother Clara is and will remain our foundress, our mother, though she lies far away, resting in a tomb. We cannot let our tears run freely at her grave, but we can always pray and call upon her in our pain and distress, because she is our mother. Good Mother, what you have been for us, we will never forget. May we have the privilege of seeing the shame taken from you, and your name once again honored among your sisters, and that your grave may be glorious. That war Sister Gregoria Korte. You will encounter her also tomorrow. The comment of silence which was imposed on the sisters after the departure of Mother Clara from Salzgitter was felt for many years as an impenetrable darkness in the congregation. Brave and courageous, however, were the words said of Mother Clara in the chronicle of the community of sisters in Metz, from which Mother Clara was forced to leave in 1881. We, her grateful daughters, to whom she sought so deeply to impart a good religious spirit, cannot pray at her grave. The good God, in his unscrutable wisdom, has allowed this to happen. We must surrender in humility and be faithful, because she taught us to live a life of love and renunciation, because becoming all to all and thus guiding people to Jesus. The chronicles in Metz are most probably written by Sister Germana. Sister Germana, she was a capable woman, she knew French, and therefore she had been in France before, and it looks like that she came back there later on. So it is something deep out of her heart what she expressed here. Yeah? We will encounter her a couple of times. And she continues, we may surely trust that she will not forget us there close to God, but will unceasingly pray for us to achieve the goal of our holy vocation, to live and to die only for God and His greater honor. Then we will rejoice with her and all the saints and be happy and secure in Him. Maybe we can have just some music, some silent music. Just the prayer we prayed this morning, just having this before our eyes and listening to the music. The research continued. 125 years after Mother Clara's death, we had the opportunity to visit the house where Mother Clara lived twice where she died. It was an unforgettable experience. A group of sisters who participated in a pilgrimage program on the 125th anniversary of her death were able to enter this apartment. Immediately thereafter, it was suggested that a plaque be attached to the house in remembrance of her time there. Some of us remember this day. On April 29, 2009, during the general chapter, a commemorative plaque was placed at the entrance of the house. It was a touching celebration. Time after that, I came again to this house. The couple left the house, and they looked at the plaque and they said, "Why so late?" Look at the dates, yeah? Why so late? I said, "I'm sorry, I cannot explain this in few words." And I'm sure many people since then have been looking at the plaque and have been asking themselves, why so late? But try to imagine, she has not her own tomb, but she has a plaque at the Campo Santo, and she has a plaque in the street of Rome. Maybe there is where she belongs, yeah? All of us. So, light into the darkness. Mother Clara spoke this, and this happened by finding her documents. During the celebration 1982, just when the book had come out, we had a huge celebration at the Mother House. I think Sister Margaret Grenker was there and some others, yes?
Yeah.
So the Archbishop Meyer gave a wonderful homily. And he said, "Light into the darkness," this is the title of the book. "Above all, you saw in this that your Mother Clara is a light out of the darkness. This was not the darkness of sin, but the darkness of abandonment, the darkness of Gethsemane, and the darkness of Golgotha. Yet, this darkness was also filled with the light of the Lord's love and the light and power and fruitfulness of the risen Lord." It can be said that your foundress truly sought to know him, only him, and the power of his resurrection, but first by participating in his suffering. We want to be grateful for her example and pray, as the Church says in the preface of the saints, illuminate our own faith and encourage us to follow our predetermined path, the path we promise to walk with renewed joy, gratitude, and humility. Now, the research. Mother Aristilde wrote in her book, that the research had to be continued. So we have done different things, and I have done different things. But during Plenary Council 2005 in Indonesia, the Indonesian sisters asked it to do something to get the name of Mother Clara rehabilitated from the official church. So it was picking up really of the mandate, which is written in the book, Light into the Darkness, at the very end. But it took some time. It was not so easy to start that. And Sister Mary Lou remembers, I contacted at the time the Archbishop from Paderborn, and we got a very loft answer. There was nobody available for us for a conversation. So. But anyway, it was put aside for a moment, and we, and also I myself, did not have all the time to work on it. And we spoke about it at Plenary Council 2007 and at General Chapter 2009, but somehow it didn't move on. But later on, I always brought it up again and brought it also back to the next Plenary Council meeting. And then something happened. The sisters from Olpe, they separated from us 1863, and they celebrated their jubilee 2013. And some months later, in November, they had the beatification of their foundress. But what we found in all kinds of newspapers and magazines, information which was not correct according to what we knew. And then finally, something happened so that I could then start and work on it intensively. And then I found a very good professor, a canon lawyer, who accompanied the work. And when I told the professor, we are working for, or we are looking for a rehabilitation of the foundress, and then he said, below beatification there is nothing. Oh, I thought, what an answer, yeah? What an answer. When the documentation was finished, and all the work was done, so in the documentation, when I had the first copy, I called him, I said, I have to talk to you. I went to Paderborn and I handed him on the documentation. And I said, and what about the rehabilitation now? There will be nothing. Oh, I said, but I have a dream, yeah? So, and then everything happened, what came then, yeah? So, but let us now bring the documentation. So I have made special experiences during all the years. It's a different one. If you bring the documentation, yeah? So I could write a book about how this came into existence. I began the intensive work in June 2013. And in February 14, Sister Hilgarde, the professor and myself, we wanted to see the bishop, and we wanted to let him know that we were working on that. And he was very kind, and he said, I encourage you very much to do that. He said, and I must say, I must admit, the church has not been good to many, many women. Yeah? So that was a statement, yeah, that was encouraging. And then when the documentation was done on 14th of October 2016, then Mr. Magdalena, our superior, Feldegarde, the professor, and myself, we went to see the Archbishop. And I presented the documentation to him, and then I presented also the dream. The dream was to get for Mother Clara in the Cathedral of Paderborn a place of honor in the Chapel of the Angels. And the Archbishop said, I support this idea wholeheartedly, but he said, I have nothing to say what's happening in the cathedral. Yeah? So then I wrote to the chapter members of the cathedral, and within 1 week we had the answer, so that we were allowed to bring Mother Clara into the cathedral. Now I am asking to bring, yeah. Here we have the paper, the copy of the letter from the chapter of the cathedral. They support our request. They were in agreement with it. Special moment, yeah? Special moment. And from the documentation then, I started to bring everything down into a shorter form, into the book, which has the title, The Sun Remains Above, Die Sonne bleibt oben. I'm asking now to bring the book. Thank you. And I know many sisters have accompanied my work by their prayers, and I felt this. At a certain moment, when I was working on the documentation, sometimes when I came into the office, I thought, oh, how does it go further? But when I was sitting at the computer, then I had the impression I got a special energy. And then I talked to the professor about it, and he said, yeah, that is a sign that the mother wants that. Wasn't it beautiful? Yes. Yeah. That he could see and could feel that, yeah? The mother wants this, that it happens. So now Mother Clara is allowed to be honored in the Angel Chapel of the Cathedral of Paderborn. And here you have now, last year I asked it if I could go once again back to Rome in order to go to the different places once again. And Sister Raffaella went with me. And the first visit we paid at the Campo Santo. We talked to the professor of today, and we were allowed to see the folder with the documents which you have here. So the documents and the final result. And tomorrow I am going to read a little bit out of the book to you. Yeah?
Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless.
I would like to say something Some papers have been laid out there. The documentation has an introduction which I have translated into English. So if you want to look at that, not now, but it's just to give some more information, gives the whole thread, yeah, how it came into being, yeah. And there are some other pages. There is one comment from Sister Christel from Sisters of Christian Charity. So she wrote something beautifully to see Mother Clara now in a different light. Yeah? And then the other aspect is, I think it's a green paper. Somebody from Olpe has read the book, and he made a kind of recension of the book, and I think it's worthwhile to read what he wrote. And it is curious enough, now I am asked by somebody from the city of Olpe to write something for the next year for the chronicles of the city of Olpe.
Oh, that's great.
It could be about 50 pages.
Okay.
So that far, I thank you for your interest, and if you have any questions, please come up with them.
Thank you, Sister Carola, for a very touching presentation. Can you say what year Superior Klein died in? When did he die, Klein?
I didn't understand.
Superior Klein, what year did he die?
79.
He died in June 1884. So Mother Clara died October 82, and then there was the correspondence between Rector de Waal and him, so it took a while to get all these things written out. And he always accused Mother Clara of having misused money. So, and Mother Clara, when she had died, we know there were some debts. And one evening when I was working on the whole thing, I thought, now I am going into the archives, if I find a book, to find out if I find some place the amounts of money which had to go to Rome, yeah? And I found them. But then I went some pages further. What do I see there? I think my eyes are falling out, yeah? Because the funeral for Superior Klein was paid by the sisters, yeah? Can you imagine? So, and everybody thought he would be doing the right thing, yeah?
No.
Do you have other questions, Mr. Marilou?
First of all, I just want to acknowledge with gratitude Sister Audrey Marie's work in translating the founding Constitution and Light into Darkness into English. But the question I have is, you spoke of Mother Clara being a victim of the Kulturkampf.
Yes.
Could you say a little bit more about the impact of the Kulturkampf on the church and on religious communities?
Yes. The Kulturkampf came so 1870 in Rome. There was the proclamation of the infallibility of the Pope. So, and this had an impact on everything in Germany, because the Prussian government thought now the Pope is coming to do everything also in Germany, yeah? But this was completely wrong, yeah? But then the government, the Prussian government, tried to eliminate eliminate bishops and priests when they were not going along with their regulations. And there came a moment where religious have been moved out of the country, the Jesuits and some other orders similar to the Jesuits, and religious congregations like ours, we were not allowed anymore to do anything in regard to education and formation. And we were only allowed to stay if we would do some nursing. And this was also a crux, because the government wanted to use the sisters in case there would be another war, yeah? So they would need the sisters in the war. So it had a great impact, and I'm going to say more about it tomorrow.
Sister Carola, thank you so much. It's just beautiful, and I'm anxious to hear more. Well, I think we all are. We're all so excited. My specific question is regarding when Conrad Martin died. Is it correct that Mother Pauline von Mallinckrodt brought him back to Paderborn for burial? And could you explain a little about that?
Mother Pauline von Mallinckrodt, first of all, she came from a noble family, so she had also some possibilities. Yeah? During the Kulturkampf, what did she do? She went to Belgium and she opened her mother house there. Yeah? And she had a brother next to Paderborn who was taking care of different things at Paderborn. Yeah? So the bishop finally ended up living in this newly created mother house of the Sisters of Christian Charity. When he died, Mother Pauline was able to get a very beautiful car and to bring him by train to Paderborn. Yeah? So in no time. But what did she do? Those who ever have been in Paderborn at the Mother House of Sisters of Christian Charity, and next to it there is the garden and the cemetery. There's also the chapel of St. Conrad. Mother Pauline had already prepared her own tomb, yeah? Her own grave. Now the bishop came. He had been thrown out, so he was not supposed to be there. So he came now back as a dead person. Yeah? What did they do? They put him into the tomb where Mother Pauline was supposed to be, yeah? Later. And the people who were present, 2 men who were present, who had to do some work, they were surprised that they prayed for a man and not for a woman. Because they thought that it's a woman, it's an important woman they are going to bury here, yeah? Anyway, then some people then tried to get in contact with the government, to get finally the permission of the government to have a solemn funeral for the Bishop Konrad Martin. So they had to take him out of the ground again, yeah? They had to expose him in the Mother House of the Sisters of Christian Charity, and then there was a huge procession when they finally buried him, yeah? And Superior Klein was the one who must have given the homily, yeah?
Speaking of irony.
A couple of comments.
Yes.
The first one is being from the United States and joining this community. So when I was discerning, as a 19-year-old, as you discern when you're 19, what community to go to, I worked for the friars. So I said to the Franciscan friars in St. Louis, where should I go? You know, I want to be a Franciscan. And they said, well, first of all, write to a couple of communities, so I did. But the opposite of what happened to your early sisters in Germany, the friars always said, go to the Wheatons. Very, very supportive of this community and what it did, particularly the work with the poor. Second comment, there are a lot of von Mallinckrodts in St. Louis. It is a very famous name on the north side of the city. Thirdly, myths are very interesting. So here's a myth that I've always carried that came to me from Christiane regarding Aristilda and her work that she was doing for the research. And that one day she was terribly downhearted about going back and doing some more research because nothing was being found. And Christiane says that she said to her, but your lunch is packed, you may as well go. And so on that day, Aristilda went, and that was the day that she learned about the packet that they had. So there's a myth that I carried from what Christiane said. Who knows what really is the story, but it's a wonderful myth.
Shirley, isn't there some part about a rainbow, too? That Christiane saw a rainbow?
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
So on the day of the rehabilitation, I happened to be with our sisters in Colorado Springs. And we were doing pre-chapter work. And of course, the beautiful thing was that our sister Magdalena sent out the mass and the documents and the emails with all the newspaper article, all those documents. And their sister Magdalena had sent it to them too. So I came with documents, and they came with documents to the pre-chapter meeting that morning, and we spent the whole half of the morning of pre-chapter time talking about the beginnings of the community and the misunderstanding and the need for rehabilitation. And then that June at the chapter, Sister Magdalena came, and of course I had the chance to meet her, and she's a great Clara Pfaender fan. She spoke very warmly of it, and what it really now, here we were standing, two women looking at each other from different communities, and how different the history could have been, but it wasn't, and now here we were. It was an amazing experience. Thank you.
My question is, when Reverend Klein was contacted by, was Duval the rector of the college? Or,
Yes.
when he was contacted by Rector Duval, why he didn't want to at least see the documents? Did Duval tell him what was in the documents? That this permission from Conrad Martin was there, or what the content was? Or did he just say, well, we have found some of your original documents?
The reason why Duval contacted Klein was the financial reason, yeah? Yeah? There never was any word about the document, nothing. So Mother Clara, when she died, we know she did not get all the money she was supposed to get, yeah? So she had debts. And then, when she left Salzkotten, she had to transfer the properties. There were two kinds of properties. The mother house in Salzkotten, and in the meantime, there was a gift from a lady who later on entered the congregation in Hurst. So there were two properties. So Mother Clara was forced from now to go, yeah? So they had to call the notary. So these properties were transferred to Mother Ignatia, yeah? But there were some other properties, two houses in Holland and one house in Germany, in Maria Linden. which were still on the name of Mother Clara. So, and when she was in Rome, a couple of times she wrote, later on when the new bishop was there, she wrote to the bishop. She wanted to know how she could make the transfer. She never got an answer, yeah? So, but the contact with Duval and Klein was basically handling these things, yeah? The financial matters to get things straightened out. Well, and Klein was not interested in the document at all.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
I would like to make a comment. I have brought here, that is a booklet in German. At a certain moment, I wrote everything down, what I experienced on the way with Mother Clara, yeah? So, and there's also the finding of the documents and the entering the archives. I will put it there. You can just look at the pictures if you like. But what we have here, the book Light into the Darkness, the original book is kept in the Generalate in Rome. And if you open that book, then you find a number of signatures. Among them, Sister Audrey Marie Rottweil, Sister Gabriele Ulein, yeah? and so on. All the people who have worked on the book in some one or the other way with translation and so on. So you have all the signatures here, yeah? So that it's a record. Just to say, I am going to make it available, even if it's in German, but some of the pictures are also speaking, yeah? And there is Mother Aristide while she is giving the book to John Paul II. Yeah? So there have been, Sister Margaret, you were present during that special moment. Yeah? So you see there are a number of moments where some of you have been involved. Yeah? So, and here at the beginning, there is also the picture of the Salvatorian fathers. Yeah? The one father who took care of the library, and one day he came into the dining room and said, well, there is a book in the cupboard without any number, without registration. And then he asked it, does somebody know who Clara Pfaender is? But there was a story before. At our Generalate, the big Generalate, in January, Mr. Aldrich, she can confirm this, yeah? There was always a retreat in German for German-speaking sisters. And our sisters had hired a priest, and he got sick. At the very last moment, they got a Salvatorian father. He came and gave the retreat. But our sister Innocentia, she was very alert. Every time when somebody came into the house, she put the book, the burning seal, into the room of a guest. So this priest, this father who came for giving the retreat, he read the book, the burning seal. He went home. And some months later, one of the friars comes and says, who knows who Clara Pfaender is? So then he could give the answer, yeah? And this is what I told our sisters in Germany. Please put the book into the guest room. Put the book into the guest rooms, yes. You never know what the connections might be, yeah?
Small world.
The world is very small, yeah? But this is really something special. So the father read the book, the burning seal, goes home, and
Wow, amazing. That is amazing.
And another thing, this was in 1970, yeah? 1969, there had been the first general chapter after Vatican II, yeah? The Road Constitutions, I think some of you
Oh, yes.
were present there, yeah? 69. So these constitutions have been submitted to congregations for the religious. So Mother Aristide was always waiting for an answer. The father, Father Willibald, who was always in contact with us, he called Mother Aristide and said, "Do you know that your constitutions are only temporarily approved?" And Mother Aristide, she said, how can he know that, yeah? So she didn't care. She thought of the constitutions which she had submitted to the congregation, yeah? But Father Willibald had seen the founding constitutions. There is written, temporarily approved, yeah? Yeah? So, but then he called her again. He said, "Mother Aristide, I have something for you, yeah?" So and then she went with Sister Innocentia, and then they got the book. Yeah? So, but I would like to say something else in regard to Sister Audrey and myself. If you look at the cover of the founding constitutions, yeah, the two of us, many years ago, we have put this in a certain way together, yeah? Audrey? So we copied certain pages from the founding constitutions, yeah? You can see this. And then there is written, composed by Clara Pfaender on the Feast of St. Ignatius, 1860. So, and then you see the approval, the temporary approval of the bishop. So this was from different pages of the founding constitutions. So the two of us have put this as a puzzle together, and the two of us then made the Tao, yeah? Oh. And when it came to the printing of the book now, I thought, I gave this to the professor, and he said, are we going, is this the original? I said, yes, but this is a composition, yeah? I said, it's a composition from 1974. So if you look into the book, at the end you will find also a copy of that, yeah? So there are many stories involved.
Yes, yeah.
Sister Carla, thank you for an amazing afternoon and all the beautiful threads that we didn't know that intertwine Mother's Clara's life and our life together as well as we go forward. So we have a few announcements. First I want to say that while we have a little bit of a break before dinner, Tao Center is available for anyone who is here and would like to stay. Any of the rooms that are open, you can just use the little plaque that says it's in use. Close the door, take a nap, whatever you need to do, okay? And there, I guess some snacks did find their way down here, so if you'd like to hang out down here and enjoy what's here, there's coffee, or you can go upstairs in the dining room and help yourself to what's there, okay? And then we have a little announcement about Taizé and some help we need.
So you are all invited this evening to our Taizé prayer service, which is at 7 p.m. in the chapel. While it is not directly about Mother Clara herself, everything we planned for this evening is in direct relation to what she stood for, what her life was about, what she lived to bring to all of us and to the young women that she was bringing into the congregation. So her memory lives on in our prayer this evening, so we invite you to join us. We are looking for a number of volunteers for some special roles this evening, and we wanted to see how many of you may be attending. If you're interested in doing something, and I promise you don't have to speak out loud, but if you would like to do something this evening, could you please see Jean Connolly? So again, please join us in prayer this evening.